That crew, listen up. I know firsthand how limited a vessel's medical insurance can be. This is why you need reliable medical coverage. Moore Dixon offers comprehensive global insurance tailored for yachties, covering everything from emergencies to routine checkups with flexible options and a single point of contact. Moore Dixon has been voted best health and medical insurance by captains and crew, including myself. Don't wait until the unexpected happens. Get covered today. Visit mdbl.im or email them at inquiries@mdbl.im for a free quote. Hi, everyone. Today on Uncensored, we're talking about truth, safety, and smarter recruitment. Superyacht References was created by our guest today, Mark McDowell, a longtime captain who's seen firsthand how broken references checks can be in yachting. Superyacht References' mission is simple: to bring honesty, structure, and transparency to the process, helping both crew and employers make safer, more informed choices. So let's get into it. Hi, Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to have you here and share actually everything that you guys are offering today to the industry. I'm actually one of your clients, so I'm super excited to share my own perspective on what you guys bring to it. So let's start with something simple, which is, what is Superyacht References for those that maybe have never even heard of it? And what do you see happening on board or during hiring that inspire you to create it?
Yeah, so quite simply, Superyacht References pre-verify crew ready for the employment process, ready for the hiring process on yachts. So basically, we pre-verify references, we do your certification, we check your IDs, if applicable, requested by the yacht, we do background checks, basically. So when you're hired by a yacht or when the crew agent or managing company whoever's doing the hiring process, they know that you're properly trained. They know that you are actually certified properly, not using fraudulent qualifications, that you are who you say you are. And yeah, on moving on from that, we also follow your career. We support mentoring. We do psychometric assessments. We're working with the companies and people like yourself to develop systems where we have better job matching facilities and overall well-being, crew well-being. And yeah,
so
that's basically it, really.
You know, I always hear from crew members, references is not enough. So what made you create Superyacht References in order to make it better? Because obviously, you know, we have the background checks, we have ID verification, which is amazing. Then why the references? Why create something for that?
I think a lot of things fundamentally revolve around the references. It's the quickest and easiest part to filter out a lot of crew from your program, and also the boats that you as a crew member want to be a part of. You know, as a crew member in the industry for over 20 years now, and captain coming up on 15 of those, you know, I've seen a lot of inconsistent or incomplete references not provided because crew members feel that a bad reference is the end of the world, which we'll go into later. It's not. It's a learning experience, and people mess up. You learn from it, you grow, and you move on. And I feel like it's important that as a hiring captain, when I bring in crew to my program, I want to know where your strengths and weaknesses lie, because I then know how to work with you in my program. Or maybe that you might not be best suited to my program, but I might know someone that you will be best suited to. So, you know, that's probably been my main qualm and reason for setting it up, but also, you know, a lot of fake altered certificates. The verification process itself is very slow. We all know, you know, and I understand it from a recruiter's perspective. There's a lot of work involved in reference checking, which is why we take on that challenge and that aspect for you with the systems that we've developed. We've streamlined it. We've made it quicker and easier. We have semi-automated. I wouldn't say AI because we don't work with AI to cheat the system, and we're still very hands-on, but we have a way that we send out reference checks to referees that make it easier for them to actually provide feedback for you. We have automated systems and we have phone calls. I've been in situation myself looking for a job as captain where my references weren't checked as a captain until the second or third stage of interviews, which as an employer, as a yacht owner or a yacht manager, to then find out you're down to the second 2 or 3 candidates and maybe you might not be the best suited to that role. I personally think it's a bit late in the recruitment process, but I also understand why it's delayed to that point, because it is time consuming.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know that the industry is incredibly fast paced with very limited time to get things done. And especially when it comes to recruitment, it's a bit ridiculous in my honest opinion. I have even changed how I recruit and my services because I don't believe that the way that we have been doing things is the right way. And I don't want to stand for something, I don't want to do something that I don't stand for. So I have 7 years of recruitment. I have in my own recruitment company, but also I worked for a big recruitment company back in the day in early 2000s. And this is where I learned how to do references checks, right? This is where I learned how to recruit, or what I thought was the right way of doing things. Because I also saw that among the other ones around us, that was like the standard. That's how everybody was doing things. That standard has gotten us to the mess that we're in today, an unsafe, unregulated, unprofessional yachting industry. So one of the things that I learned before I knew about super yacht references was like, I need to go in depth into the references. Like, that's part of the job. And it's true, it does take time. Not everybody answers. You are relying on crew members giving you, emails and numbers and, legit references as well, right? Because a letter is not enough,
legitimate emails as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And a reference letter is nice, but it's not enough. Like, that's not gonna, especially now with you can change anything and you can create anything online. So what I have found is that when a crew member did a good job and they were value on board, people tend to give, they want to give the reference for the crew member. They don't.
Yeah, they want to help nurture that crew member, give them the best step.
Exactly.
And moving forward, yeah.
Then there's the ones that also want to give a reference because they're pissed off at the crew member. And something went right. This is whoever checks references have to be very objective, right? It's like, okay, this is an emotional dump. It's not a real reference. And I mean, it's a reference, but it's not the full story, because you can tell when somebody's emotionally involved in what they're telling you. And it could be something personal that happened to them, but it had nothing to do with the fact that the person was good at their actual job. So I think this is where, we have to be very careful. And maybe those who are checking references, and sometimes are even the crew members on board or the captain themselves, maybe they don't have those skills to be objective, or maybe they even get triggered by what the other person's saying because maybe that happened to them with another crew member, and then it's like, oh no, he's not a good crew member. So they're not being objective of the process. And I think something like what you guys offer, it allows us, the recruitment, whoever that may be, to get a clean, full picture of what that crew member might, it looks like potentially. So a lot of people that might be hearing this are like, okay, well, we already have a reference check system. Like, what is it that you offer for other recruitment agencies or captains or management or personal assistants, whoever that may be, or head of departments that are doing the recruitment? What is it that you guys offer that's not already out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you hit on a few great points there. And I think it's very important to realize and remember that there is sometimes always 3 sides to the story, and sadly you are right. There is a standard, there is a norm in the industry that's gotten to where we are. Things are improving. I'll give crew agents, especially their dues, they are learning and realizing that more checks and better conversations are being had with referees, but they're also like on an uphill challenge against, quite honestly, people like me, captains that sometimes middle of the season don't have time to spend half an hour talking about a crew member that left the boat 6 months ago, 12 months ago. So there's all these little steps that we help counter that. We streamline the process, like I said, with the automated system. The crew members also do a self-assessment. The referee does an assessment based on actual factual job-related criteria: skills, reliability, professionalism, leadership if they're in a leadership role, and conduct. So, we have several categories and then several questions per category. Like I said, it's a fairly standardized system. It's job specific. So the way the system works is they can fill in a couple of questions and come back to it later. So they can do it on their own time. If they're middle of the season, they don't need to click right away. They can also just click a checkbox if they want and rate the candidate, or they can fill in a text box with more information. I think we've both worked for individuals that either don't have the time or wish to really spend a lot of time on certain individuals. And we've probably worked with people that just love to talk and praise and say as much information as possible. And we give them both opportunities, and we do that on the phone as well. Where I feel we differ is that what we're trying to achieve is a more centralized system for everybody to utilize. I think where I've run into issues with the past, and I can see why people do it again, is if you are given a bad reference, it's not necessarily a bad reference. Okay, there are people that shouldn't be out there. We'll get into that later when we get into the other systems we integrate. But if you're somebody that is committed to the industry in the long term, either for your personal gains or overall growth and development of future crew members within the industry, you want to get better. You want to learn from your mistakes. Some people early on, okay, maybe they don't know how to do that. They don't have the support. They don't have the conversations with the right people. Not a lot of boats do exit strategies these days, exit interviews, sorry. And that's where we come in again. We provide the feedback. So as a crew member, we can feed back to you. We can filter the negative aspects, the negative connotations of certain references, and work with you on the mentoring aspect. All right, how do you get back? How do you get better in that area? Can we work with you to get better in that area? Or can we help find the right boat for you to next step onto that will work with you in that area? There are certain referees that company policy, blanket policy is we don't provide a reference, which again, understandable. There is a lot of misunderstandings about what you can and can't put in a reference. But ultimately, if you're working with an individual that wants to get better, I feel it's important that you at least have the conversation with that individual so they're aware, and have that conversation with their next boat. And that's where we help bridge the gap as well.
Okay. And so I understand that, as a recruiter, I love the fact that this is coming out, the super yacht references exist and is building its way, because obviously it does take time to gather data, to get people on board, to give references, to actually sign up, to also, crew members to sign up for them to be verified, which by the way is free for the crew member. Because to be honest, as a recruiter, it, like you said, it does take a lot of time to get those references, and we have very little time. Even when we have a month to recruit, it's not enough, to be honest. Like a month, it may sound like a lot because it's better than 24 hours, 48 hours, a week is not enough. So to have something like super yacht references that I can just say, you know what, do you have that person vetted? Here, let me grab their profile, and then I'll have all the references already vetted and checked. I think this is like that centralized system, which is so important in this industry. But for that to happen, people have to sign up. People have to do the work.
Absolutely.
The people that are giving references, it really is a responsible thing for us to do for the industry. If we truly believe that we need a better industry and a safer environment on board, a more professional industry, this is the part you play, right?
Yeah.
To play, there's two parts. The crew member that signs up for something like this, they're playing their part saying, hey, check me, vet me. I want to be part of the movement that creates a professional, safer environment on board. And those who are getting the references to be checked, you also have to play that part of saying, like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going, whenever I have a chance, to give this crew member a reference. So again, you're also playing the part of creating a safer, more professional environment.
Our goal is to help you as a recruiter do your job. And if we can have the thorough, in-depth conversation with a referee, that enables you, it doesn't stop you from still having a conversation with the referee. It doesn't stop you from continuing a relationship with the referee. You can still contact them, but now you've got a full, in-depth, thorough report that you can refer to. The referee has been through all aspects of that candidate with one individual. And now you can have a nice, short, happy conversation to confirm the reference, go through any specifics. Okay, well, there was a bit of a red flag in this area because they were weak in, let's say, he was weak in leadership. Why was that, do you think? And you as a recruiter can now hone in on a little bit more specifics. You still have the relationship with the boat, the owner, the managing company. It is your duty to provide as much information to that person, individual, company as possible. And by utilizing a service like ours, you have so much more information available, which gives you so many more questions that you can ask, which then just makes the system so much easier. And it really is about simplifying the process for everybody, from the candidate to past employers to future employees to recruiters to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about references, we talked about obviously how you guys look into the duties and all that, but what about the character part of the individual, like their emotional intelligence and all that? Is that something that is part of the reference check, or that goes into the extra services that you guys offer, meaning a psychometric assessment?
Yeah, so we do cover some aspects of it. So within our questionnaires, we do cover some basics, but where a recruiter and a boat in particular would really benefit from doing psychometric assessments. And I know we've had the conversations many times. You're working with us, utilizing the psychometric assessments. We're also working with us to try and see how we bridge a few more of those gaps. And really that is key moving forward. So yeah, we do cover certain aspects of it. Really, the benefit is to do a proper psychometric assessment. The psychometric assessments, just to cover, personality traits, I think it's over. You actually did one recently. It was like 200-300 questions, but it still only takes 20 minutes. Yeah. But that's just specific to that area. So it's a lot more in-depth, a lot more thorough. I don't know how much detail you want to go into that.
Well, I do want to share with the community, because, and I was telling Captain Liam from Brittle the other day about this, because he was saying, we were having a chat, and he was saying, in the recruitment process, we really need to get on that phone call with the crew member and ask certain questions to really get to know them and understand if they're the right fit, for the vessel and the crew and all that. And I totally agree. The interview has to happen, and, there should be more than just a captain interview. If you're, for example, a chef, you should be talking to the interior head of department. You guys are going to be working like this close, right? So there's got to be synergy. Yeah. But what I was telling him was that what I have found since we started utilizing superyacht references psychometric assessment as part of the recruitment, which, by the way, as soon as I told the captains that I was, starting to do all these new additions to what we already offer at no extra cost, because I don't think they should be paying extra. I should be doing my job better and not charging more for it. So full transparency here. And they were like super happy. They were like, yeah, awesome that you're getting those background checks, that you're checking, doing psychometric assessment. And what we found, especially for me, was like an eye opener with the assessment, was that, before I even put a crew member, before I even send a CV to a crew member, I spent a whole hour or more with that crew member, understanding them as a person. So I have a really good understanding, or, grasp of what they're looking for. Can they potentially be good for that potential job? If I believe, yes, they could be a good candidate, awesome, I pass it on, then we, continue on with other interviews and things. But what has happened, what we have found with the psychometric assessment is that even after I had this massive talk and, I know how to get information from people. I have been trained for this beyond, has nothing to do with yachting. And I'm an NLP practitioner. And even after I've been able to gather all this information, the captain has conversations with them, the head of departments had conversation with them. When we had them do the psychometric assessment, what came back is not that it's completely opposite, but it definitely paints a better picture. For example, just to give you a real example. So this person said to me, my goal is to become a head chef on a big boat, have a big team. Okay, great. She has good, she comes across as somebody that's a leader, talks very well, has a good communication skills. But what the assessment actually came through is said that she's not able to maneuver a team because that's not where her skills currently are.
And that's a good emphasis of currently.
Exactly. So it was like, okay, and then what came was like, she's amazing with creativity. So what we do is that we take the assessment. We obviously take what the person has shared with us because, sometimes we share what we think we should share or what we think of ourselves, but we don't even know sometimes what our skills are and what we're really good at or not. And the assessment is like a snapshot of the moment, right? It's not like you for the rest of your life. But it's important because we're looking for a solo chef that was super creative for shark. In fact, she fit perfectly by her assessment to that job. But her dream job of becoming a head chef with a massive team, I would have never, after the assessment, as of today, in that moment, put her on that position because I know more than likely she would struggle, even though she believes that's her dream. And probably that's her dream because she doesn't even understand what her skills and weaknesses are. So I think it was really good to see the assessment. And then what we have done is we take the assessment and we kind of do like a matching system because that my clients, I know them for years. I know the crew is not high turnover. So we have a good grasp of the culture on board, which is different when there's so many crew coming in and out. That's a little bit different. And we basically went okay, it's like a 70% match or 80% match. And these are the challenges that person may bring and can have with the culture on board. And these are the, the strength and the things that you guys can benefit from. And I share this because, I have heard about psychometric assessment previously, people talking about it. And I heard a lot of negative things about it. I was like, that's not important. That's a waste of time. You don't get anything from that. And I mean, ignorance it makes you have uneducated thoughts, and once I gave this a go and realized how, after talking to you guys, what actually this could bring, this is a game changer as a recruiter for me because it really helps me paint a better picture. And not only for the employer, but even for the crew member of hey, this is not, even though you think this is the path, this is not the path for you right now. So I just wanted to share that because I think it's great value.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a couple of points that are definitely worth highlighting. Is the first one is it's a snapshot of you right now. It's not a snapshot of you potentially moving forward, right? So just in your example, that candidate would not have been suited to her perception of a dream job in this current time. It doesn't mean that is your personality trait forever.
Exactly.
You learn and grow, provided you're the type of person that does want to learn and grow. And if that's your goal and your dream, then now you've got that information and you can integrate systems into your working life, your personal life, do some training, do some courses, maybe slowly work your way up to where you want to be rather than just jumping in at the deep end and going, oh, well, actually, and then you're on the back foot and then you're kind of even more confused as to where you should be, what you should be doing. So it's really important that your psychometric assessment, if you've done one recently, I did one 6 months ago. If I do one in another 6 months, it will be different. If you do one in 6 months, 12 months, it will be different. It is subject to your environment to a certain degree, as well as your own personal development as well. So that is an important note. The other one is that there are certain negative connotations. And I think it's for that reason, is because if you don't have the right people understanding and reading and essentially translating the report, then it can be detrimental to an individual's progression.
Absolutely. I mean, I know that you guys offered this, to go through the assessment. And in my case, the captain decided to go through it with me. I feel confident that I have the right skills to translate it. If I didn't feel confident, I definitely would have not. Because like when you get the assessment, it could be overwhelming to read it. And it's almost like, okay, I got this, but I don't really get it. I don't know how
what
to
do we do?
translate to my current situation. So I highly recommend that then they would do a assessment consultation with you guys. So then that gets translated properly. I'm happy with it. Like, I think we get really good information that really supports that reference check and supports the crew member and the employer to know if they are a potential good fit for the long term,
It's also another tool that can be utilized to flag out, again, moving forward into more of the security, safety, crew well-being aspect. It is a very potentially good tool that can weed out certain individuals, certain personality traits that you just don't want on board,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it can help in that aspect. Again, we've had conversations many times, and a big conversation point in the industry is the background checking. We'll know that background checks have their limitations. Psychometric assessments will help. It's another tool that help provide a safer environment on board and help with the crew dynamics and just crew well-being overall.
Absolutely. So going beyond the psychometric assessment and the reference checks, you shared that you guys offer, other things like mentorship, career development, background checks that I have also utilized through you guys. And I do want to say about the background checks, people say it's not enough, that's not the solution. And of course, there's no one solution. There's a lot of different tools that are going to help us get to the place where we become more professional, more standardized, and the basic things are covered. Like, for example, a reference checks and a background check should be basic things. That's basic in land jobs. So why isn't that like a standard on yachts? And I truly believe that maybe principals believe management companies, recruiters are doing this, and we're not, because the standard has never been to do that. Maybe because in the past we didn't have the opportunity to have a global, for example, now you guys do it, Crew Pass do it. So there's a company I can go to and can say, okay, it doesn't matter if this person's from South Africa or this person is from Italy. I go to you, you figure it out, right? Because it can get very overwhelming when there's so many different countries to do a check on. Is like, where do I even start, right? Like, I don't even speak the language of the country or something. So having companies that have figured this out is a tool that we need to utilize. Because before we could say, well, it's too complicated, we don't know how to do it, blah, blah, blah. So we just put it on the back seat. Now there's no excuse. This should be a standard, and we have the tools and the companies to help us do that. So going beyond that, for example, we just recently did a background check on a crew member, and the captain came back to me and said, hey, can you resend that background check? Because now we're entering BVIs, and the crew member needs a specific visa, and they're asking me for a background check on this crew member. They had 2 days before they enter BVIs. Because I did my job correctly, I supported the captain's job and made his life easier. So it goes beyond just, is this person a criminal or not? It goes beyond that. There's so much into it. And it's true, because a lot of people say, well, a lot of people commit crimes and people don't, they don't get convicted. People don't report it. So obviously that's not going to show up on the check. But I think when you're really, as somebody who's bad, like a criminal, you're somewhere along you're going to mess it up. You know what I mean? And there's going to be some sort of thread we can pull from. But because we haven't been checking anything at all, to be honest, a lot of people don't even check references. I know that for a fact. Then we don't have a thread to pull from, So yeah, what are your thoughts into, the background checks and all the other things that you guys are, offering these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably spend a whole nother podcast talking about background checks, and sadly, there's a big divide in background checking. Should we do it? Should we not? And I think we both agree, and a lot of people that promote background checking agree, is they will not solve the problem alone. As you said, we need multiple different tools to facilitate a safer environment for crew. Sadly, you could perform a background check on an individual and you might not actually find out about their deviant side. We've had the conversation. It's not a be all and end all, but there's more arguments to run a background check and potentially catch something than there is against not doing it at all, in my opinion. And it's not because I'm trying to make money out of doing this. I make a very minor markup on running a background check. My sole purpose is because I'm still actively working in the industry. I'm service captain on a yacht, have been for the last 10, 15 years. And my goal really is to provide a safer environment for my crew, to promote a better industry moving forward. I've seen the downfalls across many aspects. Reference checking was one. Safety and security of the crew is another. I've been in situations, sadly, where a background check could have resolved situations, But yeah, moving on from that, I mean, there are certain pitfalls in doing a background check. The company that we work with, I believe, CrewPass also, to a certain degree, also is challenging doing the global aspect, like you mentioned. You're very reliant on, sadly, the honesty of the crew member. We have certain procedures in place to help ensure crew members are actually being honest when they're submitting the forms. There's ways to see, and this is where we come in slightly different because we have other tools to aid this aspect. I'll go into that a little bit differently. And what I will highlight is we're not competing with anybody. Anybody that runs a background check or does any of the aspects that we do, we're not competing with them. We're working with them to make sure the industry gets better. That's another point I'd like to make. Where I feel we're different is, for example, when somebody completes a background check, you can do it for the last, you need address history for the last 10 years, right? Now, one gray area is, what if that crew member's been in a shipyard in Florida for 6 months, Barcelona for 12 months? They might not declare that as an address, and therefore the check is not going to do a local search in that area because it wasn't declared. If a crew member's been on a boat for 6 months or 12 months, they should have some form of sea service to prove it. And I think this really helps boost the reference checking aspect that we do, is we ask for service records so that if you're not being totally honest about past employment, we'll see it. We'll see that you were on a boat for X amount of time. And where we differ is with our database, more centralized references, crew members. We have the information, we have the contacts, as do, any recruitment agent. This is what some crew don't realize. They do want to try to cheat the system. Crew agents weren't born yesterday. Crew agents, for the most part, I give them their dues. They have industry experience. There's certain individuals that work for certain companies that may be fairly new. They may be stepping over fairly recently, but they work with colleagues that have been in the industry for decades. If you want to call up Captain X from boat Y, you know how to find their contact details. So just because you haven't put that person as a reference on your CV, again, there's no hiding a bad reference, and it's making sure that you learn and know that a bad reference you learn from and grow from. It's having those conversations. And that's where we differ, was we have a bit more of a centralized system there that we can refer to ensure a background check is a little bit more thorough than other companies.
I have had vessels that I have worked on where I also worked in the States of the principal. And when I move into the state, I have been checked financially, criminally. I mean, you name it, everything, social media, everything. So if the principal checked me to go into their state, I am assuming that they're assuming that whoever recruited me into their vessel is doing this. But that's not the case. Until recently, that more and more recruiters are going into that route of saying, like, you know what? Like, I'm one, I put my hand up. I was doing a really bad job at recruitment when it came down to safety because I kept doing what I was shown what to do. Now I don't have an excuse. There are companies and tools I can utilize. There's no excuse. If I don't do it, that's on me, and I'm part of the problem now, So I think it's just like that standard thing of it shouldn't even be an issue. It's like 8 years.
And I think you're right. It's potentially a lack of understanding of how easy it is to access these tools these days. Everything's readily available. It's not difficult. It's relatively quick. Dealing with certain jurisdictions does take time. So that is a potential downfall in the background checking aspect, but it's no different to the delays in reference checking. In fact, sometimes background checking comes back quicker than the reference checks, So that to me is not really an excuse. And ultimately, if someone's hired, the contractual terms generally are subject to references, subject to background check anyway, So you mentioned a few other tools which come under the background checking, the security checks, the financial aspect, the global media, there's social media checks. There's so many smaller parts to all of these tools that are readily available that can help. Again, like you highlighted, is not necessarily just from a security standpoint aspect, but they're tools that can be utilized to benefit the boat's potential cruising. In your situation, which is actually a new one to me as well, I was quite happy to learn about that. Is certain nationalities require the background checks now in order to get certain visas. We're very used to Schengen, we're very used to B1, B2, and all of our information is provided as the visa application process, and the checks are done behind the scenes, right? But when you're cruising around on a boat and you've got to do a last minute, it happens. Moving on from that, you mentioned our mentoring. We're continuing to develop our mentoring program. Amy, she's been great in that aspect. You've had conversations with her. Currently, we have several mentees that she works with directly, mentees from the UKSA cadetship program. We're working with them, or trying to work with them, with more of their cadets to really honor their careers throughout the industry. And I think the cadets are a great starting point because generally they come out of that program with a long-term career progression, career goals and progression. So that's a relatively easy one to do, but we are expanding that to the wider industry. The program's not 100% set up and ready yet. Next couple of months, at least before the Mediterranean season, that's going to be pretty active, and we will be looking for more mentors to join that program. And again, the goal is really to develop and promote the industry as a whole moving forward. Our aim there is not a financial gain. Again, it's really about promoting and training and guiding the next wave of leaders in the industry, and that happens from the junior as they work through their careers. So that's really the goal, is ensuring that when people get to the point where they're in a leadership role, they have all the tools and skills available to them. And our mentorship program is not necessarily just for juniors. Anybody's welcome to join in that or apply to join. there's so many tools out there. There's a lot of companies that do leadership courses and programs. Couldn't list them all right now, but there's some great resources out there. And, we're looking to help boost that aspect as well, again, for the future good of the industry, really.
So to wrap it up, how can crew and recruiters, whether they be principals, recruitment agencies, captains, head of departments, sign up and start using Super Yacht References service?
Yeah, so super easy. Go online. I'm going to get this wrong, but this side down here, QR code. We'll do that again. QR code that side, or you can email me directly. But yeah, go to superyachtreferences.com. It's fairly easy. You'll see the links for a client, a crew member to sign in. So client, obviously, even recruitment agencies, the hiring individuals, head department, captain, owners, whoever it might be, managers, will get you set up with an account. Onboarding process has just been streamlined, so it's super easy. And we can go from there, really. It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us here today, for the work that you and your team are doing to make yachting a safer and more transparent industry. If you want to learn more about Super Yacht References, sign up, start using their platform, head to the show notes below to click away and learn more about them. Whether you're a crew member, recruiter, captain, Super Yacht References is here to help you hire smarter and sell safer. So until next time, stay aware, stay empowered, and keep the conversation going.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.